What's up, guys? We are back. It's Coach AB Anthony Bevilacqua here alongside my esteemed colleague, Tom Merck.
What's
Everybody
up?
loves
What's
the
up?
intro, man. Everybody loves the Tom Merck intro. But today we're going to be discussing how to lose fat without losing muscle. Because let's face it, so many people, they just want to lose body fat and just want to lose a bunch of weight. So they go on some crazy diet and, or they try to do it too fast. I want to lose weight in two weeks. So they go on some crazy diet and they end up losing muscle. And when you end up losing muscle, you end up looking skinny and fat at the same time. That's typically what happens when you go on a diet quickly and you lose a bunch of muscle. And it's very common when people enter a calorie deficit to just, that's it. I'm cutting my calories. They cut their calories basically down to nothing. They lose muscle and water and not a lot of fat in the process. So they actually end up fatter at the end than they do in the beginning. So I want to talk about how to lose fat properly without losing muscle, because I think this is very, very important. Most people don't even know the difference between losing weight on the scale versus actually losing body fat. So we're going to cover that today. But Tom, I'm excited for this topic because, like I said, I think a lot of people just really kind of forget that it's a slow process to lose weight.
Yeah, I mean, it should be too, when you consider like how long people have been like not dieting or just eating like whatever and gaining fat. I still think we had a podcast in the past where I said that I was basically eating horrible for like 16, 17 years. And then I started dieting. And in a little bit over around a year, I lost, about 100 pounds. That's a really good trade-off. 16 years of eating everything for a year of like practicing like nutritional discipline and things like that. And that's a pretty damn good ratio. It shouldn't come off any sooner than that, especially when it's that much weight. But yeah.
Yeah, but typical people are like, oh, I want to lose a little bit of weight before the summer, or oh, I want to get a little bit leaner. Or even just like, oh, I want to lose a little bit of body fat. So they kind of want to get it over with quickly, and they go into a calorie deficit really hard. So they go from eating like 3,000 calories down to like 1,500, thinking that they're going to lose more fat faster. And that's not usually what ends up happening. So all that time that you spend trying to build muscle, it's all going to go away if you dieted wrong in the beginning. So I basically have 5 points that I want to touch on today on keeping that hard-earned muscle. So 1, training hard with higher RPE. I can't drill this one enough. I've seen so many people who go into the gym and just looking around, or they're doing like laterals and they're just like, scrolling on their phone, like just mindlessly going through it. And that is one surefire way to lose muscle. Remember, what puts muscle on is going to keep muscle on the longest. So if you're training hard before dieting, you have to continue training hard to keep that muscle. Remember, muscle is expensive tissue. Your body doesn't want to build muscle. So it needs work and needs to work to sustain it. So you have to make sure that you keep your RPE higher. Tom, why don't you explain what RPE is for people who might not know? You can kind of run through that.
Okay, so RPE, it basically stands for rate of perceived exertion. And in a simpler term, it's just a difficulty scale. So if you are at an RPE of 1, it means you could do, it's very low effort. It's kind of like walking. Walking is an RPE of 1 because it's very easy. You could do a lot of walking and not be burnt out or not be tired from it. So that would get a very low rating. Now, if you were doing like, let's see, maximal effort sprints, that is probably like an RPE 10. It's very demanding, very challenging, and not very repeatable after a certain time. So when you're lifting weights, you should probably stay, generally speaking, let me just preface with that. Generally speaking, if your goal is to lose fat and just get stronger, if you're staying at an RPE or a difficulty rating of about 7 or 8 out of 10 on every set, that's probably ideal for most general population people. So basically, you want to make sure that the set is challenging you. And at the end of the set, you should feel like you can only do maybe 2 or 3 more reps before you have to stop completely. So you're saving 2 to 3 reps in the tank for the next set. Okay. And yeah, I think most people wildly undershoot that like pretty drastically. And that's not even getting into how long people rest for. If we're looking at public gyms, people are resting for like, I actually time myself with the Apple Watch. So it's very humbling when you put a timer on and it's like 45 seconds goes off and it's like, whoa, I just took one breath. People are resting for a long time, and then the effort's low, so they go into the gym and they basically just do nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny because like when you're doing it and you're actually trying to keep track of like the RPE in your head. So like you just mentioned, like you always want to stop within 2 or 3 reps. So right now, like today, I'll use what I did today for an example. So I was trying to hit a rep max. There wasn't like a max out there. I just said, the most I did with this weight was 10. I want to do more than 10. So I said, but I want to keep it at like a 9 RPE, meaning that I want to leave one more in the tank. So the goal was really to do 11. So I got to 10 and everything was just burning. And I'm like, I probably could do another rep, but it's going to be like really rough. And I kind of racked it. So I was so mad at myself for racking. I was like, I was 1 rep away from beating a record and I just couldn't muster up the courage to do it. So I was really annoyed with myself, but it's really hard to push yourself like that. It's not easy. This is why having someone, to work out with, whether it's a workout partner or a trainer, someone to push you when, if Tom was here and he's like, you got one more.
Oh, you would have gotten 2 more.
I got it. But I was so mad at myself when I stopped today because I'm like, I had it. I was 1 rep away from beating the record. Now, if I do it all over again, I got to do 11 reps. So yeah, RPE is very, very hard to judge, and it does take some time. But the basic point with this point, trying to tell you, is you need to push yourself. You need to be striving to beating the record book almost every workout. You got to beat what you did last time in some sense of the word. So this way you can force your body to say, okay, well, I need this muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my story for today. And I was very upset with that. So I was very mad at myself. And then I found out about this whole thing called ASMR eating. That was another thing I found out about today. Today's one of those days where I'm like, I don't understand what goes on in the world. I missed my record by 1 rep, and then I find out that people making hundreds of thousands of dollars on YouTube eating quietly.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is, eating quietly.
I actually know somebody who I think they stream on Twitch, and they open like GIFs. They literally like open things like GIFs, and they actually do food as well. Like they're opening up like a Pop-Tart thing, and they just hear like the crunch, whatever. It's like, imagine doing that to a Dorito bag. Is that like maximum effort, like ASMR? Like Dorito bags, you touch it, it gets all crazy. But this person has over 300 views every time they stream, like what they're eating or what they're opening, and people donate money to them. Why? I don't know. But listen, if I ever start doing ASMR anything, I will let you guys know. You guys could come to my channel.
we should do it like a gym one, like just the sounds in the gym, and it's just us like huffing in the bars, like slamming.
Honestly, I don't even care anymore. I'm down for it.
But I don't understand. I don't. People watch that stuff. It just blows my mind. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But if we do, maybe we'll create a workout one time, and it'll just record us in the gym working out, and it's just you hear.
I'm so down.
Go back.
I'm so ready for it. Just
and
the weights drop. I'm down for it.
And then they can hear us sipping on our protein shakes after, and our BCAAs during to recover. That's God. What we're gonna do. So, guys, be on the lookout for our ASMR workout.
Oh my God, that's
all right. Get back on track. Point number 2: if you want to keep that hard-on muscle while trying to lose fat, you need to keep cardio at bay. So many people, and again, one of those things where I just don't understand it. They rely too much on cardio to burn body fat, and they end up doing way more cardio than they actually need to burn fat. Just because you can do more doesn't necessarily mean you need to. So for example, if Tom had a headache and he said, I have a really bad headache, I want the headache to go away. I gave him 2 Tylenol, the headache is going to go away. If I give him 6 Tylenol, the headache's not going to go away faster. It's going to take the same amount of time, but now he's going to have side effects with that. So the side effect of doing too much cardio is you're going to be burning more muscle that way. So you need to keep cardio at bay. You need to keep it under control, and you need to use cardio as a tool. Most of the time when the clients come to us, they've been doing a ton of cardio beforehand, just a ton. So usually what we do in the beginning is we get their diet in check, and then we minimize how much cardio they're doing and give them a specific amount of cardio to be focusing on. So we cut their cardio down. And like clockwork, every single time we do that, people end up actually getting results now. And it's because now they can recover better from their workouts. They're getting more out of their weight training workouts, and they have the ability to maintain more muscle, which will make them look leaner in the long run.
Yeah, I think that another like very simplistic view of like what that does is if you spend all this time on a cardio machine, you're spending that much time away from lifting weights, that much time away from doing other things like walking, like outside, like with your dog or whatever it may be. You're spending a lot of time practicing like building endurance when what you really probably want is less fat and more. You want a more muscular body, even if, building massive muscles is not your goal. You want less fat and more defined muscles, more toned muscles. So cardio doesn't do that. It helps for sure. It's a tool in the toolbox, but there is a point of diminishing returns where if you're doing and spending all this time and energy on cardio, your weight training is going to suffer. And now you're not really training. You're just walking or doing whatever high intensity cardio. And now you're going to be burnt out. Like, it's not sustainable. It's definitely not sustainable.
It always makes me laugh too when you're in a big gym and you see people, they do cardio first, like they go crazy on the treadmill or whatever first, and then they go and do weights after. And it's like, it's totally backwards the way you have it, the way you're doing it. So if you're listening to this and you do cardio first, change that around and watch what happens. So your body digests your food differently, right? So it digests carbs differently than it digests fat. And your body chooses carbs first. So you're going to deplete all your carbs first, and then you'll actually start burning fat. So you use carbohydrate energy for working out. Glycogen, it's stored in your muscles, stored in your liver. So why not use that glycogen energy for an activity that's going to actually use that? And this way, when you burn that up, by the time you get to the treadmill or whatever you're doing after cardio-wise, you'll be on empty when in that, the carb category, and you'll start to tap into the fats. As simplistic as I can make that sound, you get the idea. But if you just switch that, you'll see a ton of results. Plus, like what Tom said, you'll have way more energy when it comes to, try doing a really heavy bench press or a heavy squat after running all out on the treadmill. It's not gonna happen.
I was just going to say that. You could probably like suck it up and do cardio. And if I were to tell you to just suck it up and go do a squat session, you're like, oh, no way. I can't get through that. But you could just kind of muster it up and go like walk on a treadmill. Like one of them is more demanding than the other. If you're doing high intensity stuff, yeah, of course, but that's kind of like a workout in itself, and it's going to be much shorter. But you're probably going to need the energy more for the training aspect than you are the cardio aspect. People do fasted cardio nowadays, and they're like maybe over detailing on like all these things. I think you just have to be consistent with training, nutrition, and your activity, and all that other stuff is like the 1% that really doesn't matter that much. Nobody's really elite in like public gyms. I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people are actually elite to the point where they should even be considering some of these like extra detailed modalities. You don't even have to worry about it.
Like if you don't touch the bar to your chest on bench press, you don't count. You're not elite. You know how many times I've seen that at the gym? People stop like inches. I mean, I know that's an exercise in itself. It's a different type of press, but no one's doing that. They're just ego lifting and doing like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I never understood that.
Range of motion is a whole different argument in itself. I'm team full range of motion for most exercises and considerations. Sometimes partial. Like you said, it has a place, but for general population, full range of motion is pretty much going to do the trick.
Yeah, for sure. All right, point number 3. Now we're going to shift over a little bit to diet here in this case, because we kind of touched on training. Now it's very important to touch on diet. As most of you guys know, listening to this, who have watched our stuff before, your nutrition is going to be everything. So you got to make sure you keep track of your nutrition and what's going on with that. But in order to make sure you're maximizing fat loss without losing muscle, you need to make sure you're eating higher proteins. We kind of beat this one up so many times, but remember, higher proteins are key. Protein is muscle, muscle is proteins. When you consume protein, you consume the building blocks of muscle. So you need to make sure that you're having adequate amounts of protein so you can recover and give your body the building blocks it needs to sustain that weight loss. And during the seminar that we did, I actually talked about this where they were on the same amount of calories. So somebody was eating 1,700 calories a day of Skittles, and the other person was eating 1,700 calories a day with higher protein. The person who had, even though they're both in a calorie deficit, they'll both lose weight. The person who was having higher protein will net more fat loss and retain more muscle. So if you're not having enough protein, you need to make sure you get on that. And the amount of protein that you need on a general outline is about 1 gram per pound of body weight. Again, why everyone's wildly different, but that is a general rule. So if you weigh 150 pounds, I would say you need about 125 to 150 grams every day. Again, give or take, every person's different, every person's age, but you need to make sure you're aiming for that higher level of protein. And one of the other things I want to touch on really quick before I let Tom talk, if you're an older person listening to this, you need more protein. Your body is not as efficient at digesting it. It takes more, you need more of it. So if anything, if you're older, you're going to be more on that higher end of it because you need more of those amino acids to maintain the muscle mass that you have and potentially build more.
Yeah. I think another point too is a lot of people, at least in my experience, people will, and then I don't know if you might agree with me or not, but a lot of people will overly focus on the macro portion and they'll be like, oh, I finished my workout at night, but I don't have any macros left, so I'm not going to eat anything. I'm the first person that will tell you to go over your macros, but you have to plan for this in the future. So don't always do it, purposely do it. You have to have food after you work out. Does it have to be within a minute? No. Does it have to be within, like X amount of time? Just whenever you have a meal after you work out, make sure you have a meal after you work out, because you're basically just taking a car that has full gas tank, depleting all of it, and then just leaving it there. And then you're going to go throughout the activities of your life or the next training session on E. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to feel very good. That's for sure. A lot of people have like low blood sugar or their sugars drop during training. And it just goes to show like people are not properly fueling for exercise or refueling after exercise. That's another thing too. You have to make sure that you're getting in enough nutrients afterwards to replenish, rebuild, repair, so on and so forth. Everything you just used, everything you just damaged. So
I think it boils down to, again, preparation. And that's what you said,
sure.
you can do it this one time, but don't let it keep happening. And that's 100% true. It's like I always make sure I eat something after my workout because it is very important to refuel. But again, at the same time, weight training is not as demanding on your body as other sports. So it's not like you actually need, like, your body's not going to fall apart if you don't. But it's been ingrained in me for so long. And I actually get hungry after I work out. So it's always nice to have I like to have a nice big meal after I work out, a nice calorie dense meal. Even when I'm dieting, it's always best to have a nice big meal after. And I never like to work out hungry and have that feeling of like, it's usually toward the end of my workout that I start feeling really hungry. And then I'm thinking more about the food than finishing the workout. So I think it's really, really important, like you said, just to prepare and plan for everything. So same pre-workout meal every time, post-workout meal, what are you going to have? And then just kind of fit that into your day. But again, just making sure you utilize higher protein will go a long way in altering the way your body looks, for sure. I've experimented with lower proteins. I've experimented with higher proteins. There's no benefit to extra super high levels of protein. And I think below a certain point, you definitely need more. I've dropped my protein down pretty low. But I just like to eat protein. So for me, I like to be on more of that higher end of it because I just like to eat it. And I'd rather allocate some of my calories to the things I like to eat as opposed to, other things that I don't want. So again, it's just going to boil down to personal preference. But if you're listening to this and you're older, so I would say if you're, 40s and up, you need to have more protein for sure and aim to have more of that throughout the day. So that's the protein. Point number four, when we're talking about maximizing fat loss and maintaining as much muscle as possible, higher volume foods. Love this. Love this. I've kind of not discovered this, but I've kind of fallen into the realm of finding these foods that are very, very filling and sticking with them for a long time because it makes dieting easier. So one of the ways to lose as much fat as possible but maintain your muscle is by you have to be in a calorie deficit, but being able to maintain that calorie deficit for a longer period of time. And by doing that, you need to be having more foods that are going to keep you satisfied. Because if you're not satisfied, then you're screwed. You're going to eat, you're going to cheat, you're going to have what Tom's favorite food is. You're going to go for the honey buns next time you're at the deli.
Oh,
So
God.
you need to make sure, which that actually became a little bit of a joke. I've gotten a lot of messages from people talking about the honey buns. So now whenever I see a honey bun, I'm going to think of Tom.
I can't believe that actually stuck. I was like 16 and I used to eat honey buns on the way to school, and everybody knows me as the honey bun guy. I'm like, damn, 10 years later. I haven't had one probably in about 10 years, which is really funny.
I'll bring you one today. So anyway, so you need to make sure you stick to higher volume food. So recently I went away on vacation and, I went to an all-inclusive resort. And one of the strategies that I use during all-inclusive resort, so I don't gain a bunch of body fat on vacation, because no matter what, when you go away, everything is twice the calories that you think they are. So one of the strategies that I used, again, when you're all-inclusive, most of the food's like buffet, in the morning, especially it's like breakfast buffet, whatever. So one of the strategies I used was eating higher volume foods. So for breakfast in the morning, I would literally have one full plate. I mean, I always have my shakes. I bring my shake with me everywhere I go. So 2 scoops in the morning as soon as I get up. But then when we went to the buffet, I would literally fill a plate with higher volume foods. Cucumbers, tomatoes, watermelon, kiwi, like things that were just very, very high in volume that took up a lot of room on my plate, but would keep me fuller longer, that are very, very low calorie. And it worked like a charm. I didn't measure it out. I threw it on the plate and I ate that first. That was the first thing that I ate. And then I went up and I got like my proteins or whatever else I'm going to get after that. But by doing that every day, by the time I got to the proteins, I was like full. I was like, this is perfect. So higher volume foods for sure. So I don't know, Tom, if you want to throw something in there on higher volume foods.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I've seen a lot of people or heard a lot of people say, when, if you give them like a plan or whatever it may be, if you give them some kind of like guidance, they're like, I'm eating a lot of food trying to lose weight. I'm like, isn't that really good? In a week, you're going to tell me the same thing when you're 4 pounds down, and you're going to be like, wow, I didn't think it was possible. Well, it's because now you're having more balanced meals instead of like something that's that big giving you 800 calories instead of something that's like this big giving you 300 calories. And the perfect food, I have a few foods that I could think of off the top of my head. Watermelon. You can eat an entire watermelon for not even that many calories. I may be exaggerating a bit, but basically watermelon is very low calorie and you could eat a ton of it. So butternut squash is another one, or spaghetti squash is another one. Spaghetti squash is like, the whole squash is like this big. And you can have pretty much the entire squash for like maybe 60 carbs, I think, if I'm correct. But the thing is, if you're eating slow and you're drinking water, you're only going to make it through like maybe a third of it. So it's going to fill you up so much. You're going to be like, I don't need any more food. I'm not hungry, right? You're going to basically, your body's going to be like, whoa, tell Tom to stop eating because we're maxed out. We're done here.
There's no room in the stomach.
Exactly.
You bring up a good point, and I want to touch on this because you bring up a really, really good point. People say that to us all the time. I can't, it's just too much food. It's too much food because it's very high volume. It's a great problem to have. Problem is, people want to lose fat and they think they need to suffer by doing it. And
you can still feel very full and lose fat every single week. You can be stuffed and still lose fat every week. Now, will that last forever? Probably not. But if you manage your food volumes, I'll usually tell people the example. If you're really hungry, 4 ounces of chicken breast and a 6-ounce sweet potato is going to fill you up. If you're not very hungry, a scoop of protein and like raisins are going to do the trick, because the scoop of protein and raisins are going to take up that much room in your belly, and the chicken and the potato are going to take up that much room. Use the tools you have appropriately based on how you feel. It's not exactly that simple, but it's really not that difficult either.
This is
So
also
you're gonna
why
have to learn that skill.
This is also why I really like popcorn as a snack because it's very, very filling. It takes a while to eat. And another strategy that I use too, whenever I'm dieting, especially, I take the blender, I fill it with ice, and I take 2 scoops of protein, and I make it last the whole thing. But I forget how big my blender is, but that's like a lot of liquid to go into my stomach. So it's gonna keep you fuller longer, and you're gonna be running to the bathroom. But still, the point is that you want to fill up your stomach with these things. So again, going back to my vacation thing because I forgot to mention this. So they had like an omelet making station there, and they had all the different things. So again, filler foods. So in my omelet, I want tomatoes, I want green peppers, I want onions. They had zucchini. I'm like, put the zucchini in there, double the zucchini. So my omelet was like this thick. It was huge. I don't know how. I have to credit these people on vacation how they
Egg
do
white
it.
cake.
Because she took 2 eggs and made it this giant. I don't know how she like made it like she put it around and folded it. I was like, wow. Here's a tip for that one because that was talent. But dude, my omelet was like this thick every day. But again, by the time I got to the omelet, I was already full from filling my plate from the other stuff before. So again, you have to be able to understand what higher volume foods are. I did a video on that, so you could check this channel and you could find that video where I talk about, I think it was 11 foods I did or 9 that are very high volume. But those are the foods you want to be shifting toward. And number 5, and point number 5, we're going to kind of circle back to the working out part of it. Again, you need to be training with higher RPE, making sure that you're working out hard, okay? Making sure you're keeping that cardio low. But I think if you're trying to really maximize the amount of muscle that you're maintaining, when you're in a deficit, it's the perfect time to slowly increase the amount of total volume you're doing, meaning more sets for that body parts, your whole body over the course of the diet, because again, there's more of a demand there. So while you're not going to have as much energy to do as much when you're dieting, because you're obviously going to be a little bit tired, you want to try to push yourself a little bit more in the gym. And by adding a little bit more volume, I'm not saying to double it. So if you're doing 10 sets of chest this week, don't do 30 tomorrow. 10, 11, 12. Those 2 extra sets can go a long way in helping you to burn extra fat while maintaining that muscle mass. So that was one of the things I wanted to drop in there too as well. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, I think that if you're like an average gym goer, you might not like be tracking sets and stuff like that. But if you're tracking your workouts, you're technically tracking sets. So if you say I did 4 sets of this, 4 sets of that, 4 sets of that, it's like, oh, cool. That's like, that's 12 sets of chest or pecs, right? And then next week you could just add in like 2 other sets, and then you could do that over the course of like a month or a few months and then regress it back down. So you have a lot of options, but over the course of, you want to manage your fatigue as well, because dieting can be pretty intense, like you're tired, you're not getting a lot of food in, you're probably going to be like
irritable.
Exactly. Yeah. You're going to be like, everything pisses me off, hangry, right? So you have to manage your training volume as well. So you got to, push and give and take where you can with that. But yeah, generally more sets are going to help to a degree.
All right, awesome. Tom, do you want to summarize everything or you want me to do it?
Oh, you're going to have to. I don't remember everything.
I make fun of Tom. I say that Tom has the worst memory I've ever seen. And Tom got ginkgo biloba. Have you been supplementing with it?
I have. It actually works pretty well. Like, I don't know. I feel like I remember things more, but like I know my memory. There's like certain things. Like, I don't know my fiance's phone number. Like,
all right, I'll give you that now. I mean, I know my wife's phone number because it's very similar to mine, but like I don't know my mom's phone number.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know my brother's or my dad's.
Yeah, so I'll give you that one. That one's okay.
Well, hey, listen, if you want to like remember like the most random training thing, sure, I can remember that. Or like a nutrition thing. I'm very selective with my memory, I guess. So maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know.
All right, guys. So if you want to maximize fat loss and build and maintain as much muscle as possible, you got to click the link in the description below, follow that, and that'll show you the way. But to summarize the 5 points that we talked about today, number 1, you want to train hard. Keep that RPE high. Number two, keep the cardio at bay. Don't overdo your cardio. Remember, you're trying to maximize fat loss, but also maintaining a lean physique. Okay. Number three, eating higher proteins. You got to do it. You need to eat higher proteins. Protein is muscle. Muscle is protein. You need to eat more protein. Number four, higher volume foods. Use those filler foods. Iceberg lettuce and a bowl of rice with your chicken goes a long way in keeping you fuller longer. Okay. And number five, increase the workout volume because again, we're trying to build as much muscle as possible and lose as much fat as possible. So beat that one up today. It's Coach AB, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside Tom Merck, and we're out. You didn't say peace, man. You got to say peace, and then we're done.
Peace.